Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's SoundCheck. This time out, a new Thunderbolt audio interface from Focusrite. Let's get started. Today we're checking out the Clarett 8Pre, a brand new Thunderbolt audio interface from Focusrite that features 18 inputs and 20 outputs, as well as MIDI I/O. The Clarett 8Pre features 8 microphone preamps, and it connects to your computer using a single Thunderbolt cable. Very easy to set up, very easy to operate as well. Let's begin by taking a quick tour of the front panel. Beginning on the far left, we have 2 combi input connectors, and those will accept either XLR microphone level inputs or 1/4-inch instrument level inputs. Next to that, we have 2 switches for engaging phantom power for our microphone preamps. The 2 switches allow you to engage the phantom power in banks of 4. So the first switch does channels 1 through 4, while the second switch covers channels 5 through 8. Next up, we have 8 gain controls for setting the levels that are going into the preamps of the unit. Below the 8 gain controls, we have LEDs that indicate whether or not the Airy effect is turned on and off. Now, the Airy effect is very interesting. It actually recreates the sound of the classic ISA preamps from Focusrite. The ISA preamps were very well known for having a nice open top end, a lot of air in the sound, and thus that terminology was applied to those preamps. And Focusrite has come up with a way to apply that same sound to the preamps that are inside the Clarett 8Pre. With the air effect bypassed, the Clarett 8Pres are basically in their natural state, which is very neutral. They're detailed sounding, but they don't add a lot of color to the sound. They're passing a pretty pristine signal straight into the converters. With the air effect on, Focusrite is using analog circuitry to recreate the sound of those original ISA preamps. Basically what's happening is the impedance is changing on the input of the Clarett 8Pre, and that affects the sound that's coming out of the microphone. In addition to that, an analog filter is being applied that shapes the upper mid-range. Now what this does is it opens the sound up, it gives it a nice airy top end, increases the detail. It's really a nice effect, particularly on acoustic instruments, acoustic guitar, and it's great on a breathy voice as well for really opening things up. To the right of the preamp gain controls, we have 3 LEDs. The top one shows whether we're connected by Thunderbolt. The bottom one shows whether the clock is synchronized, and the middle one indicates MIDI activity. Next to that, we have our LED meters, and then we have our monitor section controls. We have a master volume control, and that controls a level that's coming out of outputs 1 and 2 on the back. You can also reassign that to other outputs if you like. Below that, we have a mute control for the monitors, and it does indicate when it's muted with a little red dot in the middle. And we also have a dim control if you need to reduce the level to talk in the control room. On the far right of the front panel, we have dual headphone outputs, and each one has its own level control. Finally, we have the power switch for the unit. On the back panel, we have all the rest of the connectors for the Clarett 8Pre. Beginning on the far left, we have the AC power inlet. Next to that, we have digital I/O on SPDIF format using RCA connectors, and next to that, 2 5-pin connectors for MIDI. Next to that, we have a Thunderbolt connector for hooking up to the computer, and 2 optical connectors which carry ADAT optical format. Those will support sample rates up to 192 kilohertz. We have a word clock output for synchronizing with external digital gear. Next up, we have 10 1/4-inch analog outputs, 2 of which are dedicated to monitors. Finally, we have the 6 remaining preamp inputs, and those will accept mic level or line level signals and have XLR and 1/4-inch connectors. One of the really nice things about the Clarett 8Pre is that it has incredibly low latency. It hooks up by Thunderbolt, so there's virtually no delay as you're feeding signals in and out of the computer. And this makes it very easy to track and to overdub. You don't have to worry about setting up any kind of monitoring schemes. You don't have to run any additional software. Just plug into your DAW, set the buffer down low, and you have no latency worries at all. When you register the Clarett 8Pre, you'll be able to download drivers for the unit, which you install into your computer, and it also comes with the control app from Focusrite, and that's what I have running here on my Mac Mini. Now this control app, Focusrite Control, allows us both to set up the device, to control different functions, and we can set up mixing and routing if we need to set up monitor mixes. Of particular interest is the ability to turn that air function on and off on a per channel basis. Now note when we do that, it both indicates it here inside the Focusrite Control software, and the lights also indicate below the gain controls on the preamps. Additional controls allow us to set whether we're seeing line or instrument level signals on the first 2 inputs. We can set the sample rate up to 192 kilohertz. We can set where the clock source is coming from, and so on. So those kinds of day-to-day functions are handled inside the Focusrite Control. But really, once you have those set, you're pretty much just going to be using your DAW to record straight through. You don't have to worry about monitor mixing because, again, the latency is so low. Now let's put the Clarett 8Pre to work to record some tracks. I've enlisted the aid of 2 of Sweetwater's finest. I've got Nick DiVirgilio and Don Carr here. We're going to record several different layers of tracks here. To begin, we'll lay down a percussion track along with a synthesizer sequence type track. The sequence track is actually coming from a guitar synthesizer. Don's playing a PRS 513 straight into a Boss SY300 guitar synth, and we're taking the 1/4-inch outs from that SY300 into the 2 front panel inputs on the Clarett 8Pre. I've got the air function turned on both those front panel inputs, and we're using the front panel gain controls to set the level. We're feeding directly into Pro Tools, and I've also got the Focusrite control panel open here so that we can see levels there and handle routing if we need to, but pretty much everything is taking place directly inside of Pro Tools. For our percussion track, Nick is playing an Alex Acuna signature cajon from Gone Bops, and we're miking that with two microphones. On the back, we've got a Neumann U47, and that's getting all that nice bottom end from the instrument. On the front, to get the attack and also to get the sound of the strings inside the instrument, we're using a dynamic microphone, a Shure SM57. The two microphones are coming into inputs 3 and 4 here on the Clarett 8Pre, and they're routing into 2 tracks here in Pro Tools. Now I've also got the air function turned on those 2 tracks, and we're using the gain controls on the front panel to adjust the levels. An important thing to note here is that because of its incredibly low latency, the Clarett 8Pre can be plugged straight into Pro Tools, and we can monitor direct through there with no delays at all, so it's very easy to set up our headphone mix. I'm using the 2 headphone outputs on the front panel to feed the headphones that Nick and Don are wearing, and then I'm monitoring from another headphone amplifier. So let's record some tracks. With our basic tracks done, we went back and laid down a synth bass track on top of that using the SY300, and now Don's going to lay down some electric guitar. He's still playing his PRS 513, but he's routing it through a Line 6 M9 processor and into a Venus 3 amplifier from Rivera. We're miking the whole thing up using an AEA N22 ribbon microphone. Now that requires phantom power, so we've got that switched on from the front panel of the Clarett 8Pre. We're routing into channel 4, and that's coming up on the e-guitar channel inside of Pro Tools. Because the Clarett 8Pre connects by Thunderbolt and has such extremely low latency, we don't have to worry about any delays at all. It's so fast to set up. Just plug your microphone in, set the gain up, route it to a track inside of Pro Tools, and you're ready to record. We've rounded things out in our track by adding a couple of power chord tracks when we've panned those hard left and right. Again, we've used that N22 microphone straight into the Clarett 8Pre and straight into Pro Tools. And now we're going to finish things off by putting a vocal on top of it. Nick will be singing through a Neumann U47 FET.
Hey, 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 hey,
I think this gives you an idea of how fast and easy it is to record with the Clarett 8Pre, and it sounds wonderful. With that air function, you get the effect of using those classic ISA preamps, and even when you're not using that, you get a pure, clean, pristine, detailed sound coming through the Clarett 8Pre and recorded into whatever DAW that you're using. Now as a bonus, the Clarett 8Pre comes bundled with 2 Focusrite plugins, the classic Red 2 EQ and the Red 3 compressors. Now actually, these are so low latency that along with the Clarett 8Pre, you could actually track through those. Now, these give you great sounding EQ. We've got 4-band EQ here with sweepable mids, high and low mids. We've also got our classic Red 3 compressor here, very easy to operate, sounds wonderful, operates well on whatever sources you may be tracking or processing. I hope you've enjoyed this quick look at the Focusrite Clarett 8Pre. I'm very impressed with this interface. It connects easily with a single Thunderbolt cable. It has that air effect on the preamps for nice open top end. Sounds wonderful, very easy to use, and with that low latency, you can track straight into your DAW with no monitoring issues. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater SoundCheck. I'm Mitch Gallagher.